Hey, welcome back. Today we're tackling something that I hear about constantly from neurodivergent entrepreneurs, and that's the complete mystery of why your day falls apart by mid-morning even though you planned it carefully the night before. You had a list, you had a schedule, you had intentions, and somehow by 11 o'clock you're already behind, already stressed, and already wondering what went wrong. Here's what went wrong. Your time estimates were wrong. Not because you're bad at planning, but because your brain is working against you in a very specific and very fixable way. So today we're going to talk about that. If you don't know me, my name is Shannon Schroeder. I am the F-Bomb Coach, and I help ADHD women build sustainable systems for their businesses and their lives. First things first, I want to normalize this before we dig into it. Underestimating how long things take is not a you problem. It's a human problem. Psychologists Dan Kahneman and Amos Tversky identified this problem and named it the planning fallacy back in 1979. The research is pretty clear that almost everyone does it almost all of the time. We consistently predict that tasks will take less time than they actually do, and we consistently underestimate how many things can go wrong or slow us down. And then we also overestimate how many things we can get done in a day. So, if you've been beating yourself up about this, you can stop. You're not uniquely bad at time management. You're human. That said, if you have ADHD or any kind of neurodivergent brain, there are some very specific reasons why this problem hits you harder than other people, and those are worth understanding. Here's what's happening when you underestimate. You sit down to plan. Your brain focuses on the task in isolation. You think about the task, you think about doing the task, and it's going to go smoothly. You're going to have a focused state, no interruptions, starting immediately and finishing cleanly. That's almost what never happens. The planning fallacy happens because we plan for the ideal scenario while ignoring everything that typically surrounds the task in real life. The slow start, the interruption, the tech problem, the tangent, the transition time before and after. And here's the part that's genuinely baffling. We do this even when we have direct experience of the same task taking longer before. Your brain will look at a task you've done 10 times and still estimate it based on the best time it ever went rather than the average time. It's not logical. It's just how our brains work. We want to be optimistic. We want to believe that it can actually be done in that best time all the time. So the planning fallacy is a universal human thing, but ADHD brains have a few extra factors that make it significantly worse. The first is time blindness, which we've talked about before. The difference in how ADHD brains perceive time passing. Now versus not now. When you can't accurately feel how long things take, your estimates are essentially guesses. The second is an amplified optimism bias. ADHD brains are often wired toward excitement and possibility, which is a genuine strength in a lot of contexts, but when it comes to planning, it means you're estimating from your most optimistic scenario almost every time. The third is the task initiation lag. The time between deciding to start and actually starting it is real. It actually does take time, but it almost never gets included in those estimates. Fourth, we have transitions between tasks. These cost neurodivergent brains more energy and more time because more than they cost neurotypical brains. It just does. That task switching context, all of the context switching costs your brain more energy. And fifth, there's always the hyper-focused wild card, the very real possibility that you could sit down to do a task that was planned for 30 minutes and it will pull you in for 2 full hours. Now let's talk about what this actually costs, because we don't always connect those dots between a time estimation problem and the bigger patterns that we experience. When you underestimate one task, it doesn't just mean that one task runs over. It means everything scheduled after it is now starting late, which means you're rushing, or you're cutting corners, or you're pushing things to tomorrow, and possibly tomorrow again. But tomorrow already had a full plan, so now that we've pushed something, that plan is now compromised. It's a cascade. One underestimate at 9 o'clock can blow up your entire day before you even get to lunch. And when this happens repeatedly, which it does for many of you, it creates a chronic state of being behind. That chronic behindness is not just a scheduling problem. It becomes a confidence problem and a self-worth problem because your brain starts to conclude that you're someone who can't keep up, that you're not good at this, that you shouldn't be doing it, you can't handle it. That conclusion is wrong. The estimates are wrong. You aren't. Here's what I call the invisible time, the time that actually exists in your day but never shows up in your plan. Task initiation time is the lag between deciding to do something, like I got to do this, and actually starting it. For neurodivergent brains, this can be anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes or more depending on the task and the day. Transition time is the mental cost of switching from one type of work to another, closing one mental context out and opening a new one. Research suggests that it takes a minimum of 10 to 15 minutes, even for neurotypical brains. Recovery time is what you need after a cognitively demanding task before you can really bring full capacity to the next one. You need your brain to have a rest. Interruption reentry time. The time it takes to get back into deep work, that flow state, that I'm in it and I got things happening, after being interrupted averages 23 minutes, according to research from UC Irvine. And this is for everyone, not just neurodivergent people. None of this time is optional. It's happening whether you schedule it or not. The only question is whether it comes out of your task time or your buffer time. And if you have no buffer, then it starts coming out of your sanity because you're always feeling that stress. So the obvious response to all this is, okay, I'll just add more time to everything. And that's closer to right, but it's not quite enough on its own. Here's the problem. If you don't understand specifically where your time goes, you'll just make a bigger, inaccurate estimate instead of a smaller one. You'll think you'll need an extra 15 minutes when you actually need 45. Or you'll add buffer in the wrong place. Or you'll add it and then let it get colonized by your other tasks, and it doesn't really become buffer time then. What you actually need is a system for estimating that accounts for those specific ways that your brain and your work eat up time. So your estimates are based on real data from your real life instead of your optimistic life plus a few extra minutes, because that's what you're doing when you're saying, okay, well, I'll just give myself an extra 15 minutes. You're still basing that on that if everything goes well. And that's not what we need to do. So we need to build from real life, and that's what we're building today. Step 1, the first step in fixing your time estimation is understanding your actual patterns, and the only way to do that is to track them. Again, we don't need anything complicated. It's nothing huge. Just a timer and a note. For 1 week, when you start a task, start a timer. When you stop the task, stop the timer. And then write down 3 things. When you started, how long you were actually working, and how long the whole thing took from start to finish, including all of that invisible time. The gap between your working time and your total elapsed time is the data you need. That gap is your initiation lag, your interruptions, your transitions, your brain wandering. Once you can see it, you can account for it. Most people who do this exercise for a week are genuinely shocked by the gap. That shock is useful because it makes the problem concrete instead of just this vague feeling that time is getting away from you. Step 2, once you have some real data on your patterns, you can start applying the multiplier method. And I've mentioned this before, and like the general rule is 1.5, but that's not true for everything. This is more specific to you. Rather than trying to estimate more accurately from the start, you're still going to start with like your gut level reaction. Okay, you're going to go with that instinct, whatever your brain says it'll take, and then apply a multiplier. For tasks that you've done before and you know well, multiply by 1.5. So if your gut says 30 minutes, you schedule 45. If you're doing new tasks, complex tasks, or anything that involves other people or technology, multiply by 2. Your gut says an hour, you schedule 2. And after any task that is cognitively demanding, you know it's going to drain you, add a 15-minute transition buffer before the next thing starts. This is not padding just for the sake of having padding. It's correcting for a known and predictable bias in how your brain estimates. You're not being pessimistic, you're being accurate. And if you don't use up all of that extra time, cool, you have more buffer time. You have more brain reset time. Step 3. This is a slightly more detailed framework for the days when you really need your schedule to hold. It's a 3-layer estimate. Layer 1 is the task itself, the actual focused working time. Layer 2 is the invisible time, the task initiation, transitions before and after, recovery if it's a hard task. Layer 3 is the chaos task. This is a block of time you protect every single day for the unexpected. Not a specific task, just unallocated time that absorbs the things that you didn't see coming. Because again, life is gonna life. For most ADHDers, I'd recommend the chaos task be somewhere between 10 and 20% of your working day. It sounds like a lot until you realize how often the unexpected things show up, and currently they have nowhere to go other than into your planned tasks. So what do you do when your day blows up anyway? Even with better estimates and buffer built in, some days will still blow up. It's not a failure. It's life. It happens to everyone. But what you do when it happens makes an enormous difference. The worst thing you can try to do is to compress the rest of your day to make up for time lost. That just means that your estimates in the afternoon are now even more wrong than they were this morning, and you end the day more behind and more demoralized than if you just adjusted. Instead, stop when you notice that the cascade is starting. Triage it. What from today's plan actually has to happen today and what can move? Move it consciously instead of just hoping that you'll be able to catch up. Then at the end of the day, spend 5 minutes thinking about what caused the blow up. Was it a time estimate that was too tight? Was it invisible time that you didn't account for? Was it the chaos task getting used up early? That 5-minute debrief is how your estimates get better over time. You're training your brain to deal with real data instead of optimism. Your one thing this week is to track. Just track. Set a timer when you start a task. Stop it when you finish. Note the gap between what you thought it would take and what it actually took. Do that for 5 days, and you'll have really useful data about your own time patterns than most people will collect in an entire year. You don't have to fix anything yet. You're just gathering information. The fix comes when you can actually see the patterns clearly. I promise you, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Your estimates will start getting more accurate almost automatically because your brain will finally have real information to work with instead of just hope, instead of that optimism. If this sounds like was helpful for you, please like this, subscribe, pass it on to someone else that would find this useful, and I will see you in the next video.